My name is Dorothée, and we're very happy with Anaïs to be there for our first in-person web archiving conference. So yeah, that's it. So last year, the National Library of France was celebrating the 20th anniversary of its electoral web collections. And those electoral crawls have played a very central and also a very pioneering role in our collection development strategy. So therefore, we would like to take this occasion to share their history with you and to look back over the evolution of our web archiving workflows for the past 20 years, from selection and crawl strategy to access experimentations. So, but first, let's go back in 2002, even before the IIPC was born, and to the very first in-house crawl conducted by the BNF. So at that time, an extension of legal deposit to the web was in preparation, and in agreement with the Ministry of Culture, this crawl was launched to cover the presidential and legislative election on an experimental basis to precise the scope of what would become the web legal deposit. So HT-Track, an open tool, was used. And the idea here was to test both the relevance and the feasibility of the focused crawls. So the election were the perfect use case. BNF had already an expertise in preserving ephemeral political materials, namely print political flyers. And besides, it was an event limited in time that wouldn't be sufficiently covered by a broad domain crawl, and that required a selection strategy on its own. Sorry, I forgot to pass the slide. So from the beginning, the organizational model was a collaborative one, conducted in project mode with 3 departments of the BNF involved and up to 18 contributors. So on the slide, and now I've been changing to, it's the old version. Well, never mind. So on the slide, you can see the shared application that was developed to allow for collaborative selections. And so a collection building strategy was defined with a documentary typology based on the different kinds of actors expressing themselves on the web and different frequencies depending on the type of websites. So one of the characteristics of this early electoral web was the importance taken by parodical and humoristic content. So on the slide, you can see a game which goal was to knock at the head of the candidate as soon as they appeared on the screen. So what we hadn't foreseen was that the election would have such a historical outcome. So for the first time, a far-right leader, Jean-Marie Le Pen, reached the second round of the presidential election. So it was a huge surprise at that time. It was described as a seism by many observers. And it resulted in a massive embrace of the web as a medium of political expression between the 2 rounds of the election. So on the slide, you can see one of the many forums that then became a central place for political debate. And you can also see a website offering to download and print political flyers. So this pioneering collection is actually documenting a very significant event in the French political history. And so the idea of a focused crawl, event-based crawl, has proven to be a relevant one. So what came out of this experimentation? It had been successful, and so a few years later, a law extended the legal deposit to the web. As far as the technical aspects were concerned, in-house crawls were possible, though challenging. Regarding regarding the collection strategy model, we combined a mixed model like with a broad crawl once a year and more focused crawl with different frequencies. And the organizational framework was based on a network of contributors. And Anaïs is going to tell you more about this collaborative framework.
Thank you, Dorothée. Okay. So since the beginning, the electoral collections have involved numerous contributors from different BNF departments, but also from regional libraries. And this led us to create a collaborative collection model that I will now present to you. We have set up a network of contributors at the BNF and in the regions that allows us to have a good thematic and territorial coverage. This network is composed of internal contributors from 2 collections departments at the BNF, the Law, Economics and Politics department, and the Philosophy, History and Human Sciences department. There are also external contributors who work in 26 libraries in French regions and overseas territories. And on a voluntary basis, they select websites related to elections with a local dimension, such as regional or departmental elections. Up to 50 people may participate in a collection. That is why we had to build up a collaborative collection model to coordinate this network. For each election, each election gives rise to a new crawl for which we work in a project mode. A kickoff meeting is organized with all the participants to present a memo with guidelines, and this memo includes information about the schedule. So usually we start the crawl several months before the date of the election and stop it a few weeks after. There are also technical elements such as the crawling parameters. There is a territorial scope. So the BNF contributors select websites for the national level, the region Ile-de-France, which is Paris and the suburbs, and for other regions not covered by the participating libraries in regions on a sampling basis. External contributors select campaign websites for their region. As you can see on this map, we managed to cover most of France for the 2022 legislative elections, with a few exceptions. So there is also in this memo a selection scope. A collection development plan was first implemented in 2007 and has been renewed ever since to ensure continuity and consistency across all electoral collections, and to use a common typology and selection criteria for all contributors and all elections. Those criteria make it possible to build up a representative and reasoned corpus. They are as follows: the French web legal deposit scope, criteria of content and relevance, which means that all sites selected must be related to the campaign. There is also a criteria of representativeness, so the selections must represent political and ideological pluralism. And finally, all the websites selected must be fully up to date. The guidelines also include a website documentary typology. It has been updated since the 2002 typology Dorothée showed you earlier, and it is now based on actors and divided into 3 categories. So first, official and institutional websites. Second, candidates and their organizations, such as mainly the websites of the candidates. And the third category is perspectives and opinions on the campaigns, like survey institutes or media websites, associations, unions and organization websites, but also forums and social media. So for we aim to be as thorough as possible for most categories, for instance, the websites of the candidates, but work by sampling for others, like social media or forums and organizations' websites. The BNF also makes a collaborative selection tool available to contributors. It's called BC Web, which stands for BNF Collect of the Web, and it was internally developed at the BNF. It is accessible both within and outside of the BNF at this address. And as you can see on those screenshots, it is organized by collections, and contributors can fill in the details about their selections, like the name of the candidate or the political party. We also have on BC Web a system of URL check that helps us to avoid duplicates. So because BC Web is a central tool for electoral crawls, we also provide a BC Web's user guide to contributors and training sessions. And after the kickoff meeting, a follow-up is ensured through emails or phone exchanges. So since 2002 and for the next 2 decades, thanks to this organization, we cover 19 elections, presidential, legislative, regional, departmental, municipal and European elections for 14 collections and for a total amount of 47 terabytes on 1.9 petabyte for all our web archive. And from just over 50,000 seeds selected by librarians. And just a little glimpse of what we crawl with this collection. So website of candidates, media websites, blogs and forums, and social media, and also YouTube channels. Okay, and now I'd like to pass you over to Dorothée, who will tell you more about the challenges we face to crawl those contents.
Yeah, thank you. So we had to face many challenges, of course, by collecting the electoral web. So in 2002, we had used HTTrack for the first in-house crawl on an experimental basis. And in 2003, as you know, the IIPC was born, and we were able, with the help of the Internet Archive, to prepare, to test Heritrix, to prepare the next presidential election in 2007. So as Anaïs has told you, we try to capture the online presence of candidates and political parties in a way as exhaustive as possible, at least for the presidential elections. And that means also capturing blogs, social networks, and video platforms that, as you know, played a growing role in the political communication. So we collected Twitter, then Facebook, then Dailymotion, Instagram, and more recently, TikTok. So those attempts have not always been successful, as you can see. For example, when a social network platform is introducing CAPTCHA during an electoral period, and currently we are not able to collect Facebook anymore. But electoral crawls are a very good occasion to launch more complex, to test more complex crawl methods since they are in project mode. And the idea here is really to have sample of the social networks to complement the other web contents that we have related to the political strategies of the political parties and the candidates. So we will now tell you about the many experimentations regarding access tools that we made to encourage the use of those electoral collections.
Thanks. So our collections can only be accessed within the research rooms of the BNF since 2007, and also in 21 out of 26 partner libraries in regions and overseas territories. Since 2014, it has opened progressively. As you can see on the slide, we used a customized version of the Open WAC that you may have already seen yesterday with Dorothée and Sarah Aubry. So our collections can mainly be accessed through a search by URL, but we also offer thematic and edited selections of archived pages that we call guided tours. The first of our 23 guided tours was dedicated to the French electoral web from 2002 to 2007. Another one was published in 2017, and a new one will be published in June this year for the 2017-2022 period, with a focus on the campaign of a certain candidate like Emmanuel Macron, but also topics like the increasing importance of social media during the campaign.
So, in the frame of the Respadon project, we deployed a remote access point to web archives in the University of Lille, and we have chosen the 2002 presidential and legislative collection to test and offer new access tools, such as a solo wayback and also derivatives generated with the Archives Unleashed toolkit on this small collection of interest. So we use this collection as a sort of demonstrator to give an overview of the different tools, the different types of data, and the different methods that can be used to work with web archives. To do, for example, text and data mining, or to combine close and distant reading. Oops. I'm sorry, we had updated our slides and this is the first version. That's why we are always tabling. So, our electoral collection gave way to another experimentation regarding access tools. So you can see here on the picture, a picture taken at the BNF Data Lab during a 4-day event called a Data Sprint, which was organized with Sciences Po. The goal of which was to test the use of a tool called Hive on the BNF Web Archives collection. So Hive is an open source corpus curation tool and a web crawler used by mostly social sciences and humanity researchers to study communities on the live web. And so the Media Lab who developed this tool have worked together with the BNF IT teams to make it possible to crawl not only the live web with Hive, but also the archived web. It means the Internet Archive and also the BNF Web Archives collections. So let me share with you some of the results of this team who dealt with the research subject brought by Fabienne Greffet, a political science researcher. So the idea was to study the evolution of political communities around the left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who was a candidate in 3 different presidential elections. So the team has proposed a methodology to build 3 corpora corresponding to 3 different presidential elections. And a designer was part of the team and helped proposing ways to represent the evolution of network over time. So here you can see in red the websites that were only present in 2012. At the right in red. At the right in green, the website presents only in 2017, and in the middle, the website presents that are common to the 3 elections. You can also see a study of the evolution of the editorial forms used by the communities around this candidate. And so notice the evolution of the part taken by websites, blog, and social network in the communication strategy and the network building strategy of the candidate. So to conclude, this is a very good example of the kind of research uses that can be made to explore this collection of high scientific interest, and we hope there'll be some more in the coming years. So thank you very much for your attention.